Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody here. My name is Kashawn Hopkins. I'm an instructional technology specialist from Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. And today we're going to talk about student-centered learning. We're going to kind of continue the special topics that I've wanted to talk about for the Tech Talks. And so, yeah, here's another one that I feel like is going to be relevant. And it does have quite a bit of connections with what I've talked about last time, which was distance learning. But before I jump into that, I'm going to be joined here with my colleague. He's here. I want to yield some time so he's able to introduce himself. So go ahead.
Hello, I'm Kurt Bernhardt. I'm the technology director for OPSRC. Sean and I make up the tech team here. If you have any technology needs, just reach out to us. We'll be glad to help.
Yep, and I think a great way to do that would be through this email over here, techteam@opsrc.net. That'll shoot an email to me and Kurt, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. Additionally, if you're here in the live session, you want to take advantage of these slides over here. I put all sorts of wonderful resources in them, and you can follow along with me. So I'm going to read this out since it is case sensitive. So this is lowercase t, period, L-Y, / lowercase u, lowercase a, uppercase U, uppercase K. Additionally, if you're watching through the recording, you can also get these slides through opsrc.net /TechTalks. On that page that I'm going to open up over here, we have the upcoming Tech Talks. So continuing that special topic series that I'm working on, you can suggest future technology tools, or even if you want to do topics as well, you can throw those at me. And then there's our archive Tech Talks, which has gone through a little bit of a redesign as well. It's looking great. We have things from technology standards to technology integration models to the special interest topics that I'm filling up there, or individual tech tools. And each one of them has a recording date, a video, and a slide. So yeah, check those out. Use this as a resource and share them out. For this particular tech talk, my objective is after it, educators will be able to apply instructional technology principles to support student-centered learning principles. There we go. Common mistake. There we go. Awesome. A little bit of a schedule of what's going to happen here in the next 27-ish minutes. I'm going to try to attempt to answer these three questions here. What is student-centered learning? What is the student's role in student-centered learning? What is the educator's role in student-centered learning? And then I'm going to wrap everything up by sharing some resources with you. Everything that I'm going to be talking about has some kind of resource attached to it that I highly recommend taking a look at, exploring, sharing out with colleagues, any of that stuff. So yeah, that is how I'm going to approach this particular topic here. So let's dive in. First, a definition. Student-centered learning is instruction that focuses on the needs and interests of students by means of their active participation and ownership. So a few things that I want to highlight there. For example, needs. So whenever we're taking a look at student needs, they are wildly diverse. When one student is different from another, they may share things like cultural background or identity, but a part of it is just getting to know the students and knowing them well, and who knows them better than you, the educator, that's with them day in and day out, trying to get them to do what they need to do and learn what they need to learn. Moreover, whenever you're trying to fit learning experiences to student needs, it needs to be accessible. I talked a little bit last time when I was focusing on distance-based learning or distance learning environments about things like universal design for learning. So there's already principles and frameworks already out there trying to attempt to make your content as accessible as possible. And so these could be things like accommodations to try to help students get access to whatever content that you're trying to share with them. Another thing I want to try to break down a little bit here is student interest. And so I think something to take a look at when you're looking at student interest is trying to explore authentic experiences, trying to look at and see how does what students are bringing to the table when it comes to learning experiences, like how does that contribute there? And a lot of that comes from, you know, their culture, their identity, the observations that they make from day to day. And I think those are wonderful things that you can pull from and draw into your learning experiences to make them, that much more impactful for them. Two things to look at here. I mentioned active participation, and that can look like a bunch of different things. This could be a discussion, a discussion. It could be a brainstorming session. And those are more opportunities, like students are like actively speaking out. But like I said before, you want to make your content accessible. So sometimes students don't necessarily respond, especially if you've ever been a teacher and you're like, all right, does anybody have any questions? And you're met with that silence. Not every student participates in the same way as other students. There's those diverse needs that I was talking about. So sometimes students just need an opportunity to reflect in a small personal matter, and then when they're not talking with other students there, they're just trying to reach into themselves and figure out, okay, what am I actually doing here? And then another key word over here is ownership. And that's one of the things that I want to try to talk about a little bit here, because the thing that separates student-centered learning a little bit from the teacher-centered learning is the ownership. It's who's in the driver's seat whenever you start your lesson. Is it you delivering lectures and just sort of dumping the information on the students, or are you giving students the choice to choose how they're approaching the learning experience? So just a few things to think about over here. The idea of student-centered learning is based in the constructivist learning theory, which is learning occurs when students are actively constructing knowledge based on their experiences. And so, yeah, like I was kind of mentioning before, their experiences is things like culture, their identity, the observations that they make throughout the day. And these are things that we can try to pull in and use in terms of whatever students are whatever products they're trying to make to either show that they learned something or actively try to explore learning experiences. There are a couple of benefits to student-centered learning, things like developing their independence and self-regulation skills. So, whenever you're giving students more opportunity to participate in their learning experiences, they're having these opportunities to really make decisions and try to rationalize why those decisions are being made and the types of effects that they're going to make. Another thing is the self-regulation part as well. So this includes things like students setting their own learning goals for the day. They're not just getting it from you. They're monitoring their progress. They're figuring, okay, if have these goals here, what are the steps it's going to take, and how I know I'm going to make it? How will I know when I make it to my goal there? So things like that. And this is all just being built inside of the cultural norms of your classroom. And another thing is reflecting their performance at every step of the way. They're trying to think, okay, what have I accomplished here? What do I need to accomplish next? And of course, not all of this stuff is going to be done overnight. If a student's not used to doing any of these things at all, and they're used to just like the teacher monitoring the stuff, they're probably going to be a little reliant on you, and they're going to default to that mode of like, oh, my teacher's just going to tell me what to do. So it does require a bit of culture shifting when it comes to doing and helping students develop these skills. Yeah, but yeah, like I said before, some more benefits. Students own their own learning. They can be empowered by using their own unique voice and experiences. So I've already said enough about those. I won't go even further on this one, but what it kind of looks like, it has some illustrations for that, comparing the two different types of learning setups. I guess I'm not entirely sure a way to group them, but one of them would be like the teacher-centered learning style. Teachers assigning schoolwork, they're monitoring progress, they're doing the grading, they're giving feedback, and so you can see, like in this illustration, the teacher is kind of like all over the place. And students are just like, in their desk. This is where all the magic happens for them, is just right here. They may participate in kind of like a surface level thing, like if you ask them questions or if they're doing discussions. But for the most part, they're isolated and they're just receiving the information. The teacher's really like the master of the knowledge here. And they're trying to use their expertise to help the students out. And there's definitely some pros and cons to this style of learning totally. But I just want to try to illustrate this as best as I can. For student-centered learning, this can look a little bit different. And notice the teacher's role in some of these different activities. Like if students are monitoring their progress, the teacher is going to be making sure that they're on the right track, or students are planning their own activities on there. They're just making sure that, students are staying on task. They are working on those activities there, but if the students get stuck, then there's some just-in-time support that's coming in here, or students reflecting their own learning. Maybe the teacher is facilitating those small group discussions, just making sure that the students are staying on task on whatever content that they're trying to learn in that day. So those are a couple of different ways that you can take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so that's me doing my best in terms of defining what a student-centered learning environment looks like. Now I want to take a look at the two roles that I see, the way that this is going to be split up. First, we'll talk about what the student perspective looks like, and then we'll talk about the teacher perspective, because I'm leaving that for last because I feel like those are the actionable parts for you as we set the table here. So I wanted to boil down this to a couple of points for the students as well. And something I do want to point out is on a lot of these slides, bottom left-hand corner, you'll see me link to my sources on here. So a lot of these ideas are a combination of different things that I've seen inside of my research. So I try to provide all that for you on here. Additionally, a couple of slides in over here, there is a resource page as well on slide 12 that I try to combine all those resources all in one place for comfy viewing. So yeah, take that. All right, so students in students-centered learning on here. The first point on here is students being able to actively participate. And I want to tie these into technology tools that I've talked about before. If you want to know more details about any one of these, I highly recommend that you check out a TechTalks page. We have me going in depth on specific tools, but I just want to mention a couple out there to tie technology into it. Because the perspective that I bring on here on these, on at least these special topics on here, is taking a look at how technology can enhance and enable and transform learning environments to make all of this stuff possible. It's acting as a bridge, because student-centered learning can happen completely without technology, but I feel like it's really missing out on the opportunities and missing out on a chance for students to learn how to leverage technology and then bring it to kind of their authentic experiences outside of the classroom. So yeah, let's keep going into that. But for active participation on here, things like using the Flipgrid tool. So for those who don't know, that is a tool that you can use to, students can use it to create videos and then take those videos and share it amongst a community. It's going to be like a classroom that you can share with each other, or just a group of like-minded interests there. And so students are able to actively participate in that. There's no way around it, because the community is built out of those videos and responses to a prompt. Another way to actively participate, a different tool that I would recommend taking a look at, is Book Creator. So in that case, students are, they can read books and work passively, but I think the real meat of Book Creator is students, creating books and developing their own resources on there. And I like them creating their own resources, because it's not just the information, and the knowledge is not just going to be for them. It can be shared out to other students. They can get feedback. They can make improvements. It can go through that iterative process of making a good, high quality content, but it's coming from the student's voice on there. So those are two tools: Flipgrid, Book Creator. I recommend you check them out. The second point is something that I've heard quite a lot while I was in high school from mentors, not implying anything from it, but they would always say, like, make good choices. So students having the opportunity to make choices. And I do think this comes from a bit of trust in the students, and the students also trusting the teacher as well to provide guidance if they truly get stuck. I think a good tool that illustrates this is Seesaw. Seesaw is essentially kind of a portfolio making tool, and it has a bunch of creative tools built into it. So students being able to make a choice would be like, for example, you set them out on a project. Maybe they're trying to develop a way to summarize what they've learned about a book that you read, or summarize like a bunch of different concepts in a math class. Maybe you're doing something over lines, but you're trying to really pull together a bunch of different ideas that you've been working on with your student. And Seesaw, since it offers a lot of creative tools, you can take a photo or create a collage of photos. You could have students draw on photos, or you could have them create videos to express their voice. You can have them find resources online and try to put them together. You can have them just type up notes, and it really just depends on what the student prefers, like which tool is going to best fit their needs and their level of comfort, and then having them go about that. So that's why I emphasize it's not really changing the what you're trying to teach, but the how it's going to actually work out in practicality. And a lot of that just comes down to, building those experiences with the students. So there's going to have to be some base building phase, a base building phase there, where students are comfortable with the technology tool enough to say, okay, yeah, this is the one for me. Okay, enough of that. Point 3. Leveraging resources. And so some of those resources can come from you. Whenever you set students out in the wild to explore a little bit when it comes to whatever learning experience reaches out to them, they're going to need things that are going to help them out if they get stuck, or gives them some kind of guidance on what to do next on there. And you don't want to put too much a heavy hand on that, but you just want to be able to, like I said before, facilitate there. Some tools that work well with that, your learning management system, whatever you happen to use, would be good, because then students know, okay, if I get lost, I can always go to the same consistent place to at least get the next idea on here. So Google Classroom, and in conjunction with that, Google Drive works really well on there. Tools like Wakelet. So Wakelet is a tool where you can essentially take, web pages from the internet, tweets from Twitter, links from YouTube, and just put it all on the same page. And you can even have students share that out with other students, which is another wonderful resource. Students can use other students as resource. I highly recommend that you do that. In fact, that goes to my next point: communicating and collaborating with other students, other educators. You can even bring in parents on this as well. So it's just kind of leveraging those different experiences, those different perspectives to build a better, fuller project. So tools that I think I would recommend that would do a good job with facilitating these two things would be things like pretty much anything in the Google Suite, but I'm highlighting specifically Google Documents. It's something I use a lot. And mostly because of the fact that you can work on the same page with other people and like just brainstorm, just get the ideas out there, or put a bunch of resources all in the same place. I've planned vacation trips using Google Documents as well, just so we can get a bunch of ideas from a bunch of different people and work through all of that. Another tool to take a look at that I think might be overlooked a little bit is mind mapping tools as well. Like, for example, Coggle. Coggle. I've done one over that as well. I think is really good resources, because taking advantage of, and I've done a whole series on this as well, but taking advantage of visual communication, I think, is a really powerful piece that can go underused for students. But I think it's something that's so powerful, because students being able to develop their ideas in a way that the intention behind it is to share it with other people in a informative way, but in a succinct way. I think is really efficient learning there. Okay, the last thing is being able to monitor their progress and reflect on learning. One of the tools I recommend taking a look at for that is Canva. That is a visual design platform, and their education accounts, you could also get them through the free accounts as well, but I think it's more robust if you happen to have education accounts, which are free, by the way, for K through 12 educators. They have graphic organizers, they have schedules, they have the mind maps that I was talking about. A lot of that stuff is at the forefront just because of it enables students to really like manage their whole learning experience. And it's skills that you can apply very broadly to really any discipline, like math, science, English, it doesn't matter what it is. If a student can set their own goals, or if they can monitor their own progress, or if they can reflect on their learning, all that stuff can be used no matter where you're at. So it's going to be at the advantage of really any educator to teach students to monitor and self-regulate. Okay, so student stuff, it's all there. Yeah. Let me take a real quick swig, and then I will talk about the teacher perspective. Okay. Next is the teacher perspective on here. A couple of points that I wanted to drive home there is a great place to start is taking a look and doing sort of like a survey in a way, not explicitly a survey, although you can, but trying to probe for open-ended interest. I've seen educators do something simple like this, like as a bell ringer in a way, but it doesn't go much further than that, as like putting a really interesting picture or sharing like a really interesting idea, like space exploration, or just like sharing experiences with your students in a way that will provoke thought, and then just probing them and saying, okay, what did we think about that? And then tying that that experience to what students are able to point out, because whatever students are saying, that's what piqued their interest. So doing something like, you know, a virtual tour of a museum is available, or doing kind of like a VR experience if you have access to that kind of technology. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this and connect it back to the content. So this is really kind of answering that age-old question of students saying, like, when am I going to use this kind of stuff? And that's where tying that interest in there is going to be really powerful. Once you figure out where that interest is and that making that connection between your content, that is where you set a time to explore, have students take a look and say, okay, this is our main idea. Here's the things that you're interested on there. I want you all to do, I don't know, like start doing some Google search, do some kind of search, bring back some resources, and then we'll try to parse through and see, we'll go through together or in like small groups, and we'll try to parse through and see what's important here. So do a little bit of that critical thinking, tying some of that in there as well. And so I know time is an important factor on this one. So you really need to intentionally set aside time for students to do this and see what is, and being able to identify what is quality content on there, what's relevant content on there is going to tie into that interest component as well. Okay, cool. Next point, being a facilitator. And I could do a whole separate tech talk on just this one point over here. But the one thing that I wanted to extrapolate from this is just being able to teach how to manage learning. In fact, I say that, but the next tech talk is essentially going to be on that special topic. And that ties back into, and I'm going to bring back the slide from before, these different activities here. So students setting goals, monitoring progress, planning activities, evaluating the results, reflecting on their learning. Those are 5 different things. So kind of getting ahead of myself here on goal-directed type learning. And so we'll jump more into that and what that might look like from the teacher's perspective on there. But just intentionally teaching students those skills that can help them self-regulate. Next thing I highly recommend that you take a look at is adopting either standards, frameworks, and learning theories that align with student-centered learning. There's already tons of stuff out there that you could explore through and go down little rabbit holes and stuff. Standards, I would recommend that you take a look at the ISTE standards. They're technology standards that really nail a lot of the same points that I made today. And so I put a link in there. Same thing with frameworks. There's the technology integration the technology integration matrix that's built out by the Florida Center of Instructional Technology. I think this is good stuff. Sorry, give me a second. There we go. I got about 5 more minutes here. I think there's good stuff in there to help guide you and help you start thinking about characteristics that you can work on to help improve that student to make that transition between teacher-centered learning to student-centered learning. And that framework is built out of that. And there's also learning theories that you could take a look at. One that I recommend that you do, and I've included a link in there as well, is self-determination theory. Very broad, surface level. I'm not doing it justice at all. I've included a graphic for that over here. But the idea is that if you have autonomy, competence, and relatedness, students are going to start to be able to regulate themselves here. So autonomy, students kind of managing their own process, competence, like something that I referenced before, but students building that comfort level, that knowledge, that sort of like base foundational thing. They start to feel like they can actually do whatever you want, you set them out to do on that. So that's competence defined a little bit. And then the relatedness is students seeing the relevance of what they're learning and be able to connect it to all the different pieces. So that ties into self-determination theory. So a bit of motivation on that. Yeah, and all of those at their core align with student-centered learning. And then the last piece over there is being able to empower students by leveraging appropriate technology. I've already made a bunch of recommendations on here, but if you're planning that stuff out, I highly recommend that you take a look at the Technology Integration Matrix's instructional planning model, which I have on this page right over here. So this is taking a look at 3 broad categories that feed into each other iteratively. That's taking a look at available technology, comparing that to curriculum demands, and accommodating to student needs on these. So these are a couple of questions that you can ask yourself in terms of picking out technology that is going to support student-centered learning on here. So I recommend that you check that out. All right, everyone, if you've made it up to this point, thank you so much once again for listening to me talk about student-centered learning. I think this is a great start. I'll claim it's a great start at the very least, but it is by no means a full coverage of where we could go with this topic. We could go so many different directions, and it might be special topics for the future. We'll see how that goes out. But a couple of things that I do want to share with you in terms of resources here. So let's wrap this up. Next is, and this is the same page that I connected to the distance learning environment business that I was talking about last week on there. But if you need some technology tools, I try to group them by function on there. And if you need somebody to talk about any one of these tools, I've done it through the TechTalks, or you could shoot me an email or Kurt as well. Either one of us should be able to chat at least about any one of these tools that are on there. And so, yeah, take a look. I think they do these specific functions very well. You don't necessarily have to use them all. In fact, I highly recommend that you just pick like one you feel like the most comfortable with or fits the needs of your students, and then going from there. You don't want to dump too much technology in there. Otherwise, students, have to spend too much time learning and getting comfortable with the tool, and they're not spending enough time applying it and using it in a way that you should use in a student-centered learning environment. I've also included a page of a bunch of resources referencing anything that I've talked about on there. I've even included a couple of extras down there to generate ideas, and you'll see that kind of on the bottom of this page. And so reference any of that however you want. And we've made it to the last page. Once again, thank you for anybody that listened to me on here. I appreciate it. I have a link to the evaluation, which is up here. This is case sensitive, so keep that in mind when you're typing that in or you're clicking that or copy pasting that in the chat. I've been Kashawn Hopkins. I'm joined here with our tech director, Kurt Bernhardt. Thank you, Kurt. We got our email up here, techteam@opsrc.net. And yeah, if you like what I'm doing here, you can see more of it at opsrc.net/tech talks, or you could give us a shout out at any of those lovely social media links down there. So with that, I think that's probably it for now. And I look forward to hopefully seeing and hearing from y'all in the next Tech Talk. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.